Inside our theatrical news segment, I have been thinking personally about Attack of the Clones a lot this week.
Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones of
Okay.
all films.
All right.
So I figured we might as well talk about that film together and some ideas that I've just been thinking about throughout the week, and I would love to hear your take since you're here. So the first take that I have is I feel like Attack of the Clones and Solo: A Star Wars Story are the least talked about live action films in the Star Wars franchise.
Okay.
Would you agree with that take? Of all the live action films.
Of all the live action films, Attack of the Clones and Solo
are the least talked about.
I'm trying to think.
You got Phantom Menace, which I feel like
Phantom Menace
was a huge
whole
moment.
Classic, yeah.
Revenge of the Sith. I mean, we talk about that nonstop.
That's a
your
legendary
classic
movie.
First movie, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and then the sequels, and Rogue One.
And Rogue One. Rogue One is definitely a fan favorite.
Yes.
Those are all the live actions, I guess.
Right. They are.
I'm trying because that's what I was trying to think of a different one. But,
Right.
No, I mean, I guess that's a valid point.
I think
as
so.
far
At
as
least.
the least talked about is Solo, and which a lot of people do talk about Solo. It's just they want to see a Solo too.
Yeah, that's true. The ones that talk about it are the ones that want to see Solo 2, for
right,
sure.
Right. So
I want to see Solo 2, don't get me wrong.
yeah, I mean Solo 2 hasn't even come out, and it's being talked about more than Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So we are going to talk about Attack of the Clones today real quickly. Hope you don't mind. But let me know in the YouTube comments if you want us to do Solo: A Star Wars Story next. If that's the second least talked about film, let us know if you want to hear us talk about that. I mean, I would have fun doing it. And while we're talking about that, though, I want to share possibly maybe why it's the least talked about. And I don't know the answer, but I mean, I have some thoughts. I mean, is it just the least watchable? Like, is it the one that you can't watch consecutively over and over and over and over again like the rest of them? Maybe. Is it just the least liked, which, in my personal opinion, it is the least liked. Not that it's bad or anything, but it's the least liked of all of the Star Wars films in my take.
I don't think it's the least liked.
Really? Last Jedi?
The Last Jedi has got to be the least liked.
Oh, man, I don't know. And then my last question was maybe it has just the least wow factor.
Okay.
Like it doesn't stand out like the rest of them.
Right.
Which I can make arguments, and that's what I'm fixing to do, of how they might have some wow factor. But what do you think? Of all those, least watchable, least liked, or least wow factor, which one do you think is more likely as to why we don't talk about Attack of the Clones the most?
Well, just the plot in that movie, that section, there's not like it's kind of just a segue, really.
Yeah.
From Phantom Menace to Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, it sets up Anakin's love for Padme,
right?
Which sets up the foundation for why he turns evil, basically. All of his motivation. It gives backstory behind why he would do all the things he does in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
So you're right.
We get some clone action, I guess.
Right. So let's dive into it. Let's talk about some of the cool points, the wow factors that I came up with. And the first thing in my head, because I didn't really even rewatch this, like when I came up with this list. So if you think of others, let me know. I might have skipped over some. First one is Zam Wesell has serious Fennec Shand vibes. Zam is the bounty hunter / changeling that worked for Jango Fett at the beginning of the film. And I can't help but think that Favreau and Filoni looked at Jango and Zam's relationship for inspiration for Boba and Fennec in Season 2 of The Mandalorian. What do you think about that?
Well, Jango killed her. So,
ooh, okay. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
That's a little spicy.
I hope Boba doesn't kill Fennec, man. I think Jango killed her, though, because he had to.
Yeah.
I would love to see maybe do they actually have a better relationship than just that?
Yeah. Because, I mean, we see them, he pays her and tells her the target and everything, like a regular bounty hunter.
Yeah,
but then the next scene, he's, shooting a dart in her neck.
You're not wrong.
So,
you're not wrong. For some reason,
what
I
kind of relationship they have. But on the other hand, I do see the resemblance between Zam and Fennec, and they do fit the bounty hunter role, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Now, that made me think of another question. Is Fennec going to turn it? Well, she's already been a bounty hunter. What am I thinking? I completely forgot about her season 1 setup.
Yeah, her death.
Right.
Soap opera death where she comes back.
Yeah. Basically the setup for why Boba Fett comes back.
Pretty much, yep.
But my next point was Jango Fett, since we're already talking about Jango. Easily one of the best parts anytime that he's on screen of the entire film. I mean, yes, Tamara Morrison, phenomenal. I mean, his really fight scene with Kenobi, great. Just the conversation that they have on Camino.
The tension.
Great.
And, yeah, that acting. Because Ewan McGregor and then Tamara Morrison, they're two big actors anyways. And
yeah.
Putting them together, they worked the set well together.
Yeah.
Now, that is some really good acting between those two characters. But for the rest of some of the characters, it's kind of like...
Yeah.
Ooh.
And that was kind of going into my next point, how the entire plot of Kenobi discovering the clone army on Camino is great. While Anakin begins his descent to the dark side on Tatooine is gold. Like, on paper, that sounds great. But the execution as far as, acting, like you were just alluding to.
I hate them.
Between Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman. For some reason, it was just off in Attack of the Clones. And it's a little off in Revenge of the Sith, but it gets better, in my opinion, by the time Episode 3 comes around. Maybe they just got more confident and comfortable with their characters, or just being on a Star Wars set. I don't know the answer behind that. But yeah, the execution of the acting has always been, and I think will always be, my biggest issue with Attack of the Clones. But outside of that, man, I mean, Anakin killing all those Tusken Raiders after his mom died, great stuff. Yeah. I loved that scene.
Yep.
Anakin falling in love with Padme, I thought it was justifiable. Just again, the execution was off entirely. We got to see the Beru family, Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, kind of younger.
Yep.
So those are cool connections. Just that whole plot line wasn't as good as Kenobi finding the clone army. So I want to throw that out there. Next thing that I loved, Count Dooku. Thought Count Dooku was a solid villain.
Well, they cast that character perfectly as well.
They really did. He was the perfect actor to play Count Dooku. The fight scenes between him and Kenobi and Anakin were great, as well as, I mean, that was Yoda's first time live action ever using a lightsaber. So, and I was too young to remember that moment, but I'm sure that moment was awesome for diehard Star Wars old fans, because I mean, in Empire and Return of the Jedi, he was just an old kind of limping around master.
Washed up weirdo.
Yeah, so I bet when they saw that, I mean, I would have lost my mind, regardless of how the film was going beforehand.
Flipping around and everything.
Yeah.
It's been awesome to see.
But yeah, and then my final point there, still, and I've already mentioned it, unquestionably my least favorite live action film, personally. Even less than The Last Jedi. And it's not necessarily the story, because I like the Attack of the Clones story, because it's George Lucas's vision, which as a Star Wars fan, it's hard to deny the creator's vision. And I don't want to dive into The Last Jedi. Let us know if you want us to continue to dive into The Last Jedi. But yeah, I disagreed with some of the story points in that movie. But yeah, Attack of the Clones, just the execution, it comes back to that. I don't know. Those are the things that I've been thinking about regarding Attack of the Clones all week. Don't know why. Maybe I need to just watch that movie again and, I don't know, evaluate it a little bit more. I feel like maybe Attack of the Clones just isn't respected enough, in my opinion. And I think people are liking it more and more as the years go by. But it in my opinion, it's still the least talked about.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. And I would probably agree with you on the least respected Star Wars film. Just because it was, well, the acting wasn't great in some of them, some of the scenes, but I did like a lot of the stuff we talked about. It's bringing back, memories of that movie, and it is really I mean, it's a good movie.
Yeah, there's cool moments. I mean,
But it's just not the best movie.
Right. And I was just thinking about it as you were talking, Mace Windu killing Django.
Yeah.
That was great.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I didn't even notice this until I saw it recently on some Star Wars group that I'm a part of on a social media platform. I never noticed that Django's jetpack like malfunctioned, and that's how his head got sliced off. Like he was trying to jetpack away, but for some reason it just wouldn't work. And I have no clue why that's the case, and I want to know more why that's the case. Come on now. Faulty tech, let's go. You got to fix that.
Yeah, I mean, that's Mandalorian armor.
Exactly. You don't expect that from Mando armor.
Hmm.
But anyway, those are my thoughts on Attack of the Clones. I don't know why. It's been on my mind. Let us know what you think of Attack of the Clones, your rating on it, where you would put it as far as your Star Wars list goes. I know for me it's on the bottom, but as always, being on the bottom for Star Wars ain't that big of a deal for me because I just love all the Star Wars content.
Yeah.
All of it.
All of it.
Every bit of it.
Give me all of it.
All right, so no theatrical news, but we wanted to dissect Attack of the Clones a little bit. Let us know if you want us to do Solo next. Let us know if you want just kind of our without watching it. I kind of like doing that. Without watching it, what do we remember? Because that represents really
the impact it had.
Yeah, correct. So let us know if you want us to do a unwatched Solo quick takeaway kind of thing.